the desire to exercise self-control, it's just simply not enough. The Old Testament book of Nehemiah and the people of Israel, they didn't rebuild the walls of the city with desire alone. They had to carry a sword in one hand and a trowel in the other. They had to do the work of ministry. It wasn't desire alone that allowed Paul to plant churches all over the Mediterranean. He had to do the work of making tents and selling tents and buying boat tickets and getting up and going to the synagogue and fighting through hunger pangs. It wasn't desire alone that led Jesus to the cross. He had to pray. He had to willingly keep himself tied to the whipping post. He had to willingly put one foot in front of the other down a dusty road to Golgotha. He endured the cross. He willingly exercised self-control for the joy set before him in order to accomplish salvation for all who would put their hope in him. And now, in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, Paul is calling on the Corinthians, and he's calling on us, to throw off everything that may hinder us and for us to run the race of effective, faithful ministry of the gospel to our community to win eternal treasures. You know, some today have gotten lazy because they forget what they're really living for. We don't live with eternity in our hearts. We oftentimes just live for today. Some have gotten lazy because you don't really know what the race is. And this is why Paul says, I don't run aimlessly. I don't box as one beating the air. So picture this. Can you imagine the laughingstock that someone would be if they towed the line at the beginning of the race, and when the gun went off, they cut across the infield of the track, and then they run over to the pole vaulting station, and then they run back across the infield? Well, the crowd would think that that runner has no idea what he is doing, that he was aimless. And the same thing can be said for so many Christians. Their lives make no sense because they live aimlessly. Or think about a boxer who steps into a ring with an opponent, and the only thing that boxer does is shadow box, and they never aim or land a punch against the opponent. But that's what we look like when we don't have self-control in our lives, and the outside world looks and says, what's wrong with them? And listen, this is not about finding your purpose in life. The goal of the Christian life and the goal of the church is not to find unique purposes and then ask God to bless that. It's about running the race God has established. This is about discovering God's mission of making disciples of all nations and your role in it and being faithful to it, having an effective witness, which will take self-control. Today when you pray, please pray for Adam Batarse and his family, our missionaries in Florida. Also remember the House of Lifeword broadcast that's heard in Chad, Nigeria, Benin, Togo, Ghana, Burkina Faso, and Mali.